Have you ever wondered how a YouTube video actually comes together from start to finish? Today I'm giving you an authentic behind the scenes look at how I create a video. From planning to publishing, no tricks, no shortcuts, just the real process. So let's break it down step by step and I'll show you exactly how I create a video from start to finish. Let's start with ideas and planning. Honestly, the way that I come up with ideas and concepts is a big mixed bag and there's no specific way that I do it. I'm so deeply involved in the content creation space that I'll draw inspiration from parallel content, what's trending in the creator world, or even sometimes from all of the people that are involved with my editing agency. I'm so hands-on with the client edits that I see so many people at all different stages from beginners to pros, and I come up with ideas and things that they could improve and I can turn those into tips. So I don't have a specific way that I come up with ideas, but I'll generally have a massive board or even something like a book where I'll write down countless amounts of tips and different concepts for videos. And then the actual hard part is picking one that you want to put through into the actual creation process and take it from just being an idea into actually being a real video. Next up, we're gonna start moving on to the actual scripting and planning. This is a big one because it ensures that your video stays simple, clear, and structured, so it's easy to follow, not only for the viewer, but also for you when you're filming that whole thing. Scripting is so much about simplicity. It's really important for me that the information that I'm trying to share is really easily digestible by the person watching it. So I'll keep terms simple, I'll avoid complicated jargon that people don't understand. My main goal here is that I want people to walk away with an actionable step that they can actually implement into their process of whatever the topic I'm talking about from there on out. So they walk away with something that's going to change the way that they do something, or at least that actionable step that they can start applying to the way that they do things. My scripts usually follow a pretty simple structure, with the emphasis being on that initial part of the video using a nice hook setup. I call it the PSP. It's a problem, a solution to that problem, and proof that the solution to that problem works. I'll start off my scripts by writing out my dialogue, and I'll really focus on writing in a way that I would talk, not trying to sound all like formal and crazy. Something I like to do, and this is my preference, I will create new lines or paragraphs for each little section or sentence. And for me, it's a way that I can follow where I want to change my scenes or angles. If you're doing a more locked off style shot like this, that you aren't changing angle the whole time, that's not as important, but it's still nice to break it up into little chunks so that you can kind of hit on that point and then move to the next one and hit each one of those little markers within your script. To be honest, when I'm actually reading back my script, I'll kind of make up a bunch of random stuff, but having it really clear and broken up like that avoids me rambling on too much, and also ensures that I have a clear idea of what I want my script to be. When you start filming, everything that you have in your mind that you think you know you're going to do, it kind of just disappears to the wind. So having it right there, make sure that you stay on track and know that what you actually need to capture and film. For the filming part, once my script is ready, it's time to start shooting. And the key here is to keep it simple. To be honest, this is kind of the easiest part of the process, at least for me it is. And as long as you've scripted your video in a really clear and easy way, this should be kind of effortless. I have two main ways that I shoot video. Either inside, around the house, kind of like studio style, or out on location when it makes sense. They're both, for the most part, are the same, but if I film inside, I'll just be a little more intentional with things like using lights and my different compositions and angles, versus outside, well, typically follow the same rules, but just use natural lighting and kind of work with the environment that I'm in. I'll typically have an idea of the composition I want for that little segment or that few lines of dialogue, because I would have made it in the script. And if I don't, I'll kind of just look out in my environment or test a few little different angles and find something that I like. Then I'll work through my script for the most part chronologically. If I'm changing angles or more importantly locations, I'll shoot the necessary B-roll that I need at that location before I kind of pack up and move on. I'll typically film a shot and get one in a take or two, and then I'll move on to the next one. I try and avoid getting too pedantic about it and redoing the same part of the script like a million times. Generally the first one or two end up being the best. Anyway, of course, if you stumble over your words or something like that, retake it until you get something you're happy with. But don't overdo it for a million different takes. Once I've actually captured all my footage, it's time to start editing. This is where your vision really starts to come together and you start to see the results of what you've created. I'll start out by opening a template within my editing software that contains all of the things that I'll use often throughout all of my different videos. Things like color grades, specific sound effects, titles, maybe an intro and outro card. So you don't have to recreate them every single time and you rather just have it right there from the start. Then I'll drop all of my footage into the timeline. And the first thing I'll do is just start separating all of my B-roll from my A-roll or talking head sequence like this. Once I've got that roughly separated, I can label them with different colors if I want, so I can see at a glance a little bit more of an organizational look. And then I'll start going through my A-roll, just kind of rough cutting everything up, taking off the tails and heads of each clip, lining things up so that they flow nicely with each other. If I have some sections where I have transitional cinematic sequences, maybe going between locations, I'll start taking that B-roll and putting it in between those different A-rolls to cut them up, making it really rough. But something that's super important here, and something that a lot of beginners do, is that you don't want to keep going back to the beginning of the video and watching it through and seeing how it flows. I'll really try and focus on just doing one pass through the whole thing without going back and looking at anything. Once I've got that rough cut done, I'll start to start sculpting and shaping my actual edit. This is where I'll start collecting music, creating different little parts of the edit. If it's some cinematic sequences, I'll start putting all of the B-roll on. One of the most important things that I focus on here is pacing of the video, and more importantly, a fluctuation within pacing. Something else I focus on is the 80-20 rule, and it's basically that I put 80% of my effort into the first 20% of the video. The 30 seconds at the start is by far the most important part of your video, because if no one sticks around after that, it doesn't really matter what the rest of your video is because that person's already clicked off. This is where I'm going to start doing things like color grading, where I basically put on 2 adjustment layers. The first adjustment layer is I'm just going to use a log to Rec 709 conversion LUT to make my footage go from like this to this. And then the second adjustment layer is going to be my creative one, where I'll use one of my instant color grading presets from my LUT pack. The next thing is going to be sound design and kind of final tweaks. So the one thing that I'll do when I'm building out my music is I'll start adding in sound effects like Foley and ambient noises, as well as anything that is obvious in frame. Something really important to note with sound effects is just because you don't see it, it doesn't mean that you aren't hearing it. So if you're out in your environment or doing something, having some simple background noises really brings that scene to life. So adding in some like birds or some background noise really makes that scene feel a lot more full. The other important part of the sound design is that I want to enhance my voice and use the vocal enhancer within Premiere Pro. Whatever editing software you're using, it's likely that you can do something like this. It just takes away a lot of that reverb in your voice and makes it sound more full. The way that I'll do this, and I'm just going to go through this very simply, I have an editing video if you want to check that out that's coming out. But I will select my audio track for my voice. I'll go to vocal enhancer, I'll select podcast voice, and this just makes the voice sound a lot more full. Like if you were to listen to this right now is before I've done this processing, and if I was to add it now, this is what it sounds like after the processing. It's subtle, but it makes a difference. When I started creating videos, editing was by far the hardest thing that I could possibly work on. It took all of my time, which meant I couldn't focus on the rest of the creative process, and I didn't really know what I was supposed to be doing within the edit to really pull the full potential out of the content that I'd put so much effort into creating. It was really, really frustrating. Even as a more successful and streamlined creator, where I completely understand and know how to edit my videos to make them look nice, I still really appreciate the fact that it is a massive waste of time. And I would rather spend my time on high return tasks like scripting or putting effort into the SEO of my videos and thumbnails, things like that. So I created a product to solve my own problem, which is the creatorlabs.co. It's an editing agency set up by creators like myself for creators like yourself so that you can take that task off of your hands. There's limited seats, and as people sign up more, the prices do keep going up. So if this is something you're interested in, now is the best time to get on board and give yourself the chance that you deserve at actually becoming a successful creator by focusing your time and effort onto the things that matter. It's time to start uploading and publishing this content you've worked so hard on. Now, if you don't get the correct SEO and things that are gonna package your video in the right way, no one's gonna watch it, and then it doesn't really matter how much effort you put in if your goal is to actually get those videos seen by people, which it probably is. Let's start with titles. So we need to create intriguing titles to make the viewer wanna click on these videos, and we need to be specific. The viewer needs to feel like if they don't click on this thing, they're missing out on something that's gonna be pivotal to what they're working on. So don't use things that are too vague, like you need to know this about filming. It's kind of, yeah, you need to know this about filming. Okay, what? Not that important, not that much urgency or intrigue. So rather go for something super specific, like my step-by-step process for creating professional YouTube videos. Those two different titles are gonna hit a different part of those potential viewers' brain. That one is gonna be much more likely to draw people in and be like, oh, that's actually what I need to do. The next is thumbnails. We need to keep it simple and bold. I like to use a maximum of 3 elements within my thumbnails. So maybe that's you, the subject, a big bold title, and the background. Don't fill it with too many things. Maybe it's you, the subject, a small title, a big title, an icon, and then some other confusing things. Simple and clean and bold is the name of the game for thumbnails. I also like to kind of just further create some intrigue and mystery that plays on our title. So maybe with my step-by-step process for creating a professional YouTube video title, I could put some bold text on the thumbnail saying, after 10 years of learning, or so you can copy me. It makes it simple and easy. The next is the description. So I like to start my descriptions of the videos with some focused keywords to help YouTube understand what my video is really about, as well as making sure that I actually say these words in the beginning of my video. Don't dilute your words too much and rather focus on a few specific words. So repeat the main words and the main topic of your video and just reinforce it. Once I've done that, I'm gonna hit publish and not look at that 1 out of 10 or 10 out of 10 little scale on YouTube, and repeat that whole process again and go and start a new video. Just remember that this process becomes refined by repeating it. Repetition negates knowledge. If you can repeat this process over and over and over again, you'll understand it more and more and more, making the whole thing easier. At the end of the day, the goal is to make creating a video start to finish feel incredibly easy, even though it's a complex task. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know down in the comments what you kind of do to create your videos or any specifics you might be struggling on. And remember, if you want to take out the massive bottleneck task of editing, check out thecreatorlabs.co before the prices rise up more and more. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.